So bring people from different backgrounds, come together in one place and develop solutions and do some good in the world.
Yeah, welcome to the Let's Tech Pod. I'm Henrik and I'm CEO of Codic Consulting and Codic Education, who does this podcast. And I should also mention Linnea Enström, who does actually most of the job around the pod with booking, questions, research and editing. And Jonathan Fahl, who's in the room right now with us. He's doing all the technical stuff, photography, video, editing, and the sound part that we record this with. So thanks to you. And today, welcome Annaam Butt. You're a hackathon project leader for OpenHack, and you're also program manager and scrum master at CGI, correct?
Yes, that is correct, and thank you.
So can you tell us even a bit more about yourself and your involvement in OpenHack?
Absolutely. So I am originally from Pakistan, and I moved to Sweden in 2016 to do my master's at Chalmers University, where I got a scholarship. And this was when I had just started my studies, and I was really interested in applying my skills because my studies were in project management, and I really wanted to try out actual projects to apply my skills and what I was learning, and also do some voluntary nonprofit work. And interestingly, one of my classmates was actually going to a talk being held by Engineers Without Borders, so Ingenieur Utan Grenzer. And there, when I also went with him, we found that they were recruiting for a project team for something called OpenHack.
Why did you find that interesting?
I found that interesting because it was such a new concept for me, and they were looking for a project leader, which is perfect, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And more so because it was about using your skills to make a difference and do some good in the world. And so the background of OpenHack is that in 2015, a student at Lund University had thought, how can I use my skills as a software engineer to make the world a better place? And he started thinking around hackathons, a play on the word of hack marathons.
Yeah.
So think coders wearing hoodies and drinking Red Bull and doing lots of coding, and started thinking around open source and basically combine the two words to form the idea of OpenHack. And the aim with that is to conduct 48-hour hackathons to solve social and humanitarian challenges. So bring people from different backgrounds, come together in one place and develop solutions and do some good in the world.
Is it a requirement that everything is open source for OpenHack?
Yeah, more than a requirement, I think it's the essence of what we do. So all the solutions that are developed in those hackathons are available for anyone to take up and continue with. And you can find them on our GitHub page as well.
And your involvement started with basically an ad for this position, and you applied and you got the job.
Yeah, so I applied and I interviewed with the student leader at that time at Engineers Without Borders, and I got the position as project leader to organize the first OpenHack in Gothenburg, so the hackathon in Gothenburg. And my job started with recruiting a team and basically starting from scratch. And I had never done a hackathon before, so this was really interesting for me and really treading in new waters, so to speak. And we started from there. And in that year, so this was 2017 when I started, they were doing the first hackathon in Uppsala as well. So the team that I had recruited until that point, we went down to Uppsala to volunteer and to just experience what a hackathon is like. So that was our first real experience just months before we were supposed to do our own hackathon. And it was super fun.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should mention the format.
Yes. Yeah. So open hacks are typically a competition.
Yeah. It's a good motivator, right? To win a competition. Yeah.
Exactly. And we've had 3-4 categories. Sometimes we've had money as a prize in the end, but more often than not, it's the recognition.
Yeah.
And the format usually is that it starts on a Friday evening, there's a mingling and there's case presentations. So you hear who is the organizations that are actually there and what challenges they're proposing. And then you have a networking session where you can find people, form a team and start working from there. And so Saturday mornings are usually the time when you really start getting into it. We usually do talks to keep the participants motivated. We try to do some activities. We've had yoga, for example, once. We've had a band come and play once. So you have these different things that are, of course, optional for you to join. But also, when you're tired of maybe developing a solution or trying to find a way, you can take a break and just come and join one of those sessions as well. So it's quite optional. So Saturday is that kind of a full working day. And Sunday is usually the day when you're finalizing your pitch and you submit it at a deadline. And then you have an hour or an hour and a half or two, depending on the number of participants, of a pitching session in front of a jury. And then the jury goes in and deliberates. And usually by Sunday afternoon or evening at the latest, we announce the winners.
Do you think it will become more common with open source in the future? And what will that mean for society?
I think it will. And I see a huge benefit in that, where we don't hold on to sort of our ideas. If you have a great idea, put it out there and others can benefit from it.
Maybe we can start to talk also about something that you call Hack the Crisis Sweden. You co-organized that event back in April, like in response to the corona pandemic. And how did it go and what's happened since then?
Yeah, so a little background about that. It's a really, really interesting concept. And it started off in March by a company called Garage 48 that wanted to do this in Estonia. So Hack the Crisis Estonia. And as we all know, COVID has hit us around that time, especially it was at the peak around that time and everything changed. So a group of people thought, let's do hackathons to try to solve the problems that people are currently facing. And it became a global movement since then. Since then, more than 60 local hacks have actually been organized. And this is how sometime in March after that movement started, we in Sweden started thinking about doing the same thing, that let's do a Hack the Crisis Sweden. And this was us in OpenHack. We were talking about it, and it turned out that Hack for Sweden were talking about it, and then DIG, the public government agency for digitization, also got involved.
I thought you meant dig.com.
No. No, DIWG. So we were all thinking about the same thing. So we basically joined forces and brought this together in about 2-3 weeks time to basically solve challenges that everyone was facing right now in Sweden because of COVID.
What could be examples that were addressed in the Hack the Crisis?
Oh, so many. So we had 3 categories: save lives, save businesses, and save communities. Yeah. And I think one of the most common things that we saw was how could we help people who are, for example, in the risk group, and people who are socially isolating and who need to socially isolate for the sake of their health. How can we make their lives, daily lives better and easier and improve and, come together to actually help them out? That was just one of the examples. And then if off the top of my head, saving businesses, there are a lot of businesses that are struggling, go on from restaurants or from the service industry to, you name it. So how can we help them?
I have a bit harder time seeing how you can save them with, for example, an app or a web page. But
yeah, really? I can give you examples.
It's probably my imagination. Yeah, please.
That's the thing. That's the thing I find the most fascinating about this is that you find solutions that you might not have thought about, and that's where we all come together to actually build ideas and solutions that to problems that we might not even know about and we're not even familiar with. So, for example, one of the winning teams in the category of Save Businesses Digital is called Break Even. And their solution, and hear me out, is to basically display businesses and how they're doing and what they need to do to actually reach their break-even point.
Yeah.
So break-even is when, you basically break even with all costs.
Yeah.
And it sounds simple, but it's about displaying that and in real time basically saying, okay, these are the amount of sales they've made now, and this is how much more they need to be able to break even so they can survive. And
so if someone sees that in the local neighborhood, maybe they can choose to help such a struggling business that they want to support and keep in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm sure that you would want to save your local bookstore or your local cafe from going down under, from being closed down. I know I have. Yeah. I would like to. So that's one of the examples that we have.
Cool. Do you think that any of the work that you did back then has any impact now when we see the cases rising again in Sweden and also, like in the UK, for example, dramatically?
Absolutely. So from Hack the Crisis Sweden, which happened in April, we already knew at that time that we wanted to continue this and keep the work going. So instead of just having solutions that were built, we want to actually continue working to building them and actually implementing them. And that was the main focus area because things have changed so much since COVID and will continue to change. Nothing is really the same or going to remain the same even next year. And we wanted to continue that. So we started a project here called West Coast Hack for Impact. basically with a network of people who were mentors, who were partners, who were working together during Hack the Crisis Sweden, who were also interested in supporting the teams to go forward with implementing and developing their solutions. And we've been working since then to evaluate, okay, which teams are actually still working on their solutions and which solutions will make a lot of sense to develop and actually get out there during this COVID rise again. And even when the cases fall, some solutions are transferable and expandable to other scopes as well.
Okay, so Hack for Impact was a bit of a continuation of Hack the Crisis.
Yes,
yeah.
It is.
So what did you see in specific challenges? Was it hard to find people who were still working on their solution from the previous approach?
So, for example, if I'm to put it in numbers, we had about top 60 solutions. So we had 500 plus solutions that were developed during Hack the Crisis Sweden. And out of those, 60 came out to be as highlights. And when we started digging deeper into, okay, which are the solutions that still make sense to continue developing and to continue working on, and also the most important factor is the team that actually developed it to, continue working with it, because that's a key aspect right there. So we need the right stakeholders to actually be working on that. It turns out that, for example, we have about maybe 10 or 15 of those that are still actively working on developing their solutions and have registered organizations or are partnering up with other teams to continue developing them. So it's always like that. Not 100% of the solutions will go on to fruition.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you get any media coverage over this? Anything you remember?
Hack the Crisis Sweden, absolutely we did. All over. I mean, it was all over. It was over GP. Some of the winning teams we had, for example, a 17-year-old who was in one of the highlighted teams that came out to be in the top 10. And of course, just about the initiative itself, since it was government supported, there was quite a lot of coverage about it.
So you really felt it made a difference with the government support?
Yes, it definitely. I think it did. To have the government being involved on such a deeper level, it really shows you that there's leverage, there's importance, there's value in the work we're doing. And it also gives us support, because as a nonprofit, it's a challenge to really, try to do everything as much as we would love to do that. But at the end of the day, we need the resources and the network and the connections to be able to go on and to keep doing this work. And having the government involved has been really great, of course.
Is it hard to get people to sign up for 48-hour non-stop hackathons, and maybe what they do will not turn out to be anything, or, it's actually a bit like work. So maybe, what's the selling point for an average student who might want to join?
That's what I love about this. The selling point is the fact that you volunteer your skills to make a difference in the world. And it is actually not that hard. And one of the key things that we have focused on is the quality over quantity. So we never, at least for the OpenHack hackathons, aimed for 1,000 people or even 500 people. It's about, okay, let's get 100 people in the room and develop solutions.
Yeah.
And it has worked really well so far.
Yeah.
And for example, for Hack the Crisis Sweden, we had 7,000 plus participants. So you can imagine it wasn't that hard. So I think that the driving force here is the fact that people are really interested in doing good. People are really interested in using their skills to develop solutions that can actually help others. And I'm constantly impressed and amazed by the fact that we always get really, really interesting people out there who just volunteer their time over a weekend and actually develop solutions.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is, yeah.
And when you say get 100 people in the room, I guess it's also a virtual room nowadays?
Yes, it is very virtual right now. Hack the Crisis Sweden was held virtually. We had OpenHack Gothenburg at the end of August, which was also held virtually. We have OpenHack Stockholm coming up in November. It is also being held virtually. So, of course, we are very COVID compliant.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that if you have any upcoming hackathons. And I think you mentioned a good list there.
Yes.
Is there anyone in particular you want to highlight, or people, if you mention it twice, maybe people will remember?
Absolutely. Recently, OpenHack actually won a tender by the Swedish Institute to co-organize hackathons together. And that is really, really exciting for us because we're seeing a global sort of reach through this. So there's a couple of hackathons that are coming up. So stay tuned on our website and you will find news there very soon.
And I guess these days when it's called OpenHack Stockholm, you could participate from Gothenburg as well, or?
Absolutely. So when I say Stockholm, it just means that it is being organized centrally there. But of course, everyone and anyone is welcome. For Hack the Crisis Sweden, we had people from all over the world.
Yeah.
For OpenHack Gothenburg, we actually had a team that was based in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So would you say that hackathons are for everybody, or, what would you say to the people who are maybe too shy or insecure, don't believe in themselves enough to participate?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because one of the things I make it a point to highlight is that hackathons are not just for coders or developers, because they, of course, are a central resource, but at the same time, you need the creative thinkers, you need the out-of-the-box thinkers, you need the business developers, you need the people who can pitch an idea really well and actually take it forward from there. So I would say anyone and everyone is actually welcome to hackathons. There's no limitation. And my personal sort of feeling about this and what I've seen from experience is that the teams that develop the best solutions are the ones which are the most diverse. And that is diversity of gender, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of thought, diversity of experiences.
Yeah.
So yeah, coders are great, but we need everyone.
Nice. How do you match if you have? I guess you can also join then if you're a single individual and not like a little group already.
Absolutely.
And do you then match people together, or how do you work with that?
Yes, we absolutely do. So in all of our hackathons so far, we make it a point to support anyone who is looking for a team member, and we usually provide dedicated slots for doing that. So either a matchmaking session, or just when we used to do it, obviously in one room, it could be a networking session where you could just meet others. And generally you have challenges or cases that we provide that you can work on. You can, of course, bring your own. So we can also match you based on the type of challenge that you want to work on and so on. So we support that completely.
Did anyone create a website or app to organize hackathons in these strange times?
There are digital solutions, yes. Yeah. So you can imagine now that we're doing it virtually, we need them more than ever.
What impact do you think hackathons will have on social change going forward? Have you thought about that?
All the time, because that's what OpenHack is about. And I've seen from experience that it can have a huge impact. What we need is a lot more support in driving that impact. So we've been really good at organizing hackathons and developing those solutions. And what we're heavily looking at now is how can we take those solutions forward into building MVPs and to actually implementing them. And that's where I think we could use a lot more momentum.
Yeah, have you seen any trends within the hackathon community, so to say, that might spread outside of that community and become important to the outside world, really?
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. So since I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, I've seen more interest within corporate organizations to conduct their own hackathons for the purposes of either driving innovation internally and getting ideas externally and then driving that internally and so on. So I'm seeing a huge shift as well. It's not just about social change, but it's also driving internal organization innovation and building entrepreneurs, for example, and supporting your employees and others, for example, to be able to do things differently and to think out of the box and think creatively.
Have you seen a lot of interest from different companies to participate and to partner up with you?
Yes, I can say that we have. And of course, it's always a challenge when you're starting off to be able to find the right kind of people. But we've seen a lot of interest, and that is why we still have recurring partners over the years. We work with organizations such as SIDA, Migrations Work at Arbetsförmedlingen, Red Cross, UNHCR, UNICEF. They have been really central for us because we want to be able to help those organizations, and that's how we do it through our hackathons. So, but recently we've had Stena as well, focusing on recycling solutions. So things like that are also where we see organizations coming in and supporting us.
And how do they typically support you? Is it like in some cases, I guess it's to have an office to be in, but can it also be economically or?
Yes, anything and everything basically. So it's money, it's office space, it's digital resources, for example, spreading the word. It's about the resources, sharing the networks as well, for example, and the cases.
Any other example that you could lift that would just, explain a little bit about what the typical highlight solution can be for you?
Absolutely. So I have different kinds of examples. I wouldn't say they're all typical because this is especially looking at Hack the Crisis Sweden was very specific and very special.
Yeah.
So for instance, a company called Bright Act built an app specifically to combat rising cases of domestic violence. And they've done really well. And this is to provide the victims with support, all kinds of support. So connecting with legal resources, connecting with health clinics, connecting with the police if needed. So that's really tackling a serious issue that has been coming up during these COVID times. And apart from that, another one which is I think very relevant even beyond COVID is called VoiceMed. So they have a service where you can make a phone call and basically if you think that you might have COVID and you might have symptoms, they have sort of a pre-screening. So they ask you to cough 3 times into the microphone, breathe deeply, and using AI technology, they will map and see if you are at a high risk of having the virus or not.
Wow.
And they have actually gained a lot of momentum. So this is a very interesting team. They were in Hack the Crisis Sweden as well as in another one, and they're based all across Europe. So the team is very spread out. And this is one of the really good examples of how people from different backgrounds and just coming together during a hackathon can build a solution. And as you might imagine, this can go on to solve other problems for other diseases as well. And they've recently gained quite a good momentum as well.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to hear that there are so many ideas and people actually execute them and get their solutions out there. I mean, it's great that so many people want to help.
This was, I think, very specific to Hack the Crisis Sweden, but I can also give some OpenHack examples, the ones that I've especially seen. One of the most common themes that we saw initially coming out of, for example, Arbetsförmedlingen or JobTech, I think they're called, was how do we reduce biases when applying for jobs? And how do we make that process simpler, just basing on people's skills? You know, so imagine a challenge like that, and
That's a very relevant question, for sure. Yeah,
exactly. And then we've had some really interesting organizations.
What was their idea, so to say, to come around the biases?
What were the solutions, you mean? So thinking back, I can recall one which was about, for example, having a web app or a platform where you just basically answer questions and you don't need to provide a CV.
Yeah,
and all the questions were very relevant to just your skills. And then we've had, for instance, an organization called Childhood that was dealing with a more sensitive issue on how we can fight the perpetrators of child abuse across social media. So identify who might be doing that and actually combat, prevent them from being able to do it across social media. That was a very heavy challenge back in 2018 in Stockholm, I think.
Childhood is already a big organization?
Yes, they are. They're called the Childhood Foundation.
Yeah, very encouraging to hear about all this. So if you think about typical participants in a hackathon, like an open hackathon, are they there to help, or are also many seeing an opportunity to maybe make it into a company and in the end make money off of it?
I would say I haven't seen many who are driven maybe by making money out of it, but definitely the aspect of helping, developing a solution, and also networking, of course, meeting people from different backgrounds, meeting people from organizations, for sure. It's a great place to be able to do that, to be able to just meet like-minded people who are interested in spending a weekend solving solutions, and of course having fun at the same time. So it's a really fun environment. It can be intense. 48 hours is actually not that much. So starting from just a completely new challenge to, finding your way around, okay, what might be the solution, and actually pitching in front of a jury at the end.
Maybe we can also mention, by the way, your website. So, we obviously will list it by this pod episode on our webpage, which is codic.se. So I can mention that as well. But how does a listener here find you?
Yeah, just openhack.io. We have a very active LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook presence as well. And it's usually OpenHack-Coding for Humanity. If you just search for us, you'll find us there. Yeah,
and you exist all over the world also, except from Sweden, I guess.
Well, we're based in Sweden, but as I said, especially with virtual hackathons, there is no limitation on anyone who wants to join us. So we have a nice presence now, which I'm happy about. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So maybe to conclude here, what are your personal hopes when it comes to the future of hackathons and the work that you do?
So with OpenHack specifically, my hope is that we get into a really good place where we can ourselves as an organization support the teams who come up with these really cool solutions to go further to developing and implementing them. That's definitely going to be a focus for us. And I'm really hoping that we get into a position to be able to doing that more than what we are now.
Yeah.
As a nonprofit, you can imagine there are, of course, different challenges. So that's one. And another is that this movement continues and spreads, and that more and more people are motivated to just join in and use their skills to think out of the box and to solve problems and make a difference.
Great. Thank you very much, Annaam Butt, and thank you for your work with OpenHack.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.